So I was I was thinking about this whole topic of, staying emotionally resilient and how do we do that? And honestly, it's all been covered on these calls. But to give an example, and some of you who have are on my newsletter or listen to my podcast might have heard this story. When I think of being emotionally resilient during challenging times, I think about the time where I wanted to see a show in the worst way. And it wasn't even like best show ever, but I wanted to see the show. Hannah's smiling. Hannah probably already knows which story I'm going to tell here. I wanted to see a show in the worst way, and it was a musical, Hannah. And you know how I feel about musicals, just like you. And so I wanted to see Mean Girls, the musical, when it was in Chicago. Yes, I'm going to compare emotional resiliency to Mean Girls, the musical. Yeah, I don't care what you say about movies being turned into musicals. That soundtrack is catchy as hell. And if you're a musical theater fan, there's some songs in there that you like. Don't look at me like that, Sandra. I know what you're thinking. I know. No, I'm totally kidding. So, wanted to see Mean Girls, the musical. Next thing I know, I look at the dates and, it's closing weekend. And I'm like, oh, shoot. Well, that's inconvenient. Add on top of that the fact that I was broke as a joke at the time. And ticket prices to Broadway and Chicago shows, they're not that cheap. But I said, I want to find a way. And whenever it has come to something that's like hard to get tickets or shortened window of time, I don't let that be the reason I don't do it. Now, I might say, you know what, my time is better spent doing something else. But if I really, really want it, I'm going to do everything I can to find a way to get it. So I remember wanting to go see Mean Girls the musical. It's Thursday before closing Sunday. Can't go on Sunday because I have a thing. Saturdays, that's not going to work with my schedule. I'm going to have to give up a very important work shift that will pay me money. Friday's my day. And I'm like, okay. And I check the third party sites and I'm checking all of that. I'm like, I don't like the prices. And what I ended up doing was deciding I'm going to rush the show, because if you rush the show the day of, then you're able to you have a chance to buy some very heavily discounted tickets. So I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going to do that. Well, I rushed the show, and as soon as I get there, there's this long ass line with everybody else who's also waited until the last minute to see Mean Girls the musical. And I'm waiting. I'm trying to get the tickets. They run out of rush, and they're like, oh, the next available price point is $135. I'm like, nope, not doing that. But I still have it in my mind. No, I'm going to go see the show tonight. And I looked at every avenue there was. I looked at StubHub. I looked at SeatGeek. I looked at all the scalper websites I could find. Googled Mean Girls the musical. I posted on Facebook asking, does anybody have any leads? I'm DMing people. I'm trying everything. And in my mind, I'm like, I'm going to the musical tonight. So as it gets later in the day, I'm not starting to feel so confident about my chances. Ticket prices aren't dropping to the point where I want them. And the thing is, if you check these scalper sites throughout the day, when there's theater going on, they fluctuate in price because people are either dropping their prices of their tickets because they think maybe, okay, you want to, if I don't drop these prices, nobody's going to go. But then people are snagging them. People are doing the same thing as me who waited till the last minute. I am checking all throughout the day. And then 3:00 rolls around. Oh, and by the way, I'm at my day job at the time, which is an office job in the Loop. So I'm right around the corner. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm not going home in between then and that. So no, this is happening. Well, 4:00 rolls around. I'm like, shoot, my workday's almost over. 5:00 rolls around. And I'm like, this isn't looking too good. 6:00 rolls around. Now I'm one of the only ones in the office, and I'm the idiot. And they're like, why is our one part-time employee still here at like 6:00 on a Friday night? And everybody else has like gone home for the day, except for a couple of other workaholics. 6:30 rolls around, and I'm like, at what point am I gonna just throw in the towel? because this is exhausting. Like, I'm getting more and more frustrated the closer it gets. I'm mentally drained from screen time, from refreshing the website, from all of these different things. I am so mentally drained, and yet I'm still there. And I'm trying to figure out, I'm like, okay, well, what do I do? Like, what do I do about this? Like, how am I going to get these tickets? And I keep hitting refresh. I keep trying to get these tickets, and nothing is working. 7 o'clock rolls around. Now I'm getting pissed. Like, this isn't fun anymore. That go-getter attitude that I had earlier in the morning, it's gone. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm still here. I might as well keep checking. It's not like I'm doing anything else tonight. 7:15 rolls around. By the way, this show starts at 7:30. 7:15 rolls around. I'm like, even if something shows up right now, I don't know that I'm going to be able to make it in time for curtain. And that's when I see a ticket that reached the price point I want. It was only $50. And here's the thing. There were like $80-something tickets for the nosebleeds. And I'm like, if I'm going to this, I'm not sitting in the nosebleeds unless I'm paying like $10. And I'm like, I don't want to pay $80 plus another $50 in fees or whatever the hell that comes out to just to get, just to see part of the show. No. But this $50 ticket shows up at 7:15. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, ooh, okay, that's going to come out to more with fees. It is orchestra, dead center towards the back, but dead center in the orchestra. And I'm like, ooh, okay. And I'm thinking, like, do I want to pay this much? Because with fees, it's going to be a lot more than 50. And like I said, I was broke at the joke at the time, but I wanted to go. I really wanted to go. I was broke as a joke and I wanted to go. So I'm like, I don't have time to think because somebody's going to snatch this ticket. So I add it to my cart. I put in my credit card payment. I proved I'm not a robot. Get the email. Congratulations. You've got your ticket. The show starts at 7:30. And I'm like, yes. Oh no. So now I'm like running over to the theater and I'm practically skipping to the theater. There's probably people like, what is he doing? Where is he doing? And I'm like super excited. And I get there with plenty of time. And I saw that musical. I'm going to be honest. It wasn't that great. It was worth it, but it wasn't like best thing ever. But I'm glad I went. And more than that, I was able to prove to myself that I could do hard things. And I think of this story because in this season that we're in the season of COVID, oh my God, what does my acting career look like right now? What about money? There is so much to stress out about. And so my question for you all is, are you willing to wait until 7:15 to make things happen? For whatever your 7:15 is. Maybe that's using all the money you have saved up until you get another job. It could be a lot of things. But I think as actors, because we're so emotional, it's very easy to want to throw in the towel. And I want to challenge you all to have a 7:15 mindset. So how do we do that? Well, number one, it comes to our call a couple of weeks ago. What are you consuming? Are you consuming content? And to reiterate, this doesn't mean you don't consume anything negative, but if all you're consuming is the negative, all you're consuming is the drama, and if all you're consuming are the stories that you don't need to hear about right now, it's not going to help you give you the fuel, the emotional and mental fuel that you need to have a 7:15 mindset. An example of those things that we don't need to pay attention to. So I'm unemployed right now. I would love another stimulus check. I would love for that extra $600 to come back because my paycheck was a lot smaller this week. Talks are happening in the Senate about a possible stimulus bill. I don't have time to read that. Why? Because there's no new information that's giving me the answer that I want. I'm not going to waste my time on that. I want to see the result, yes or no. Boom, that's all I need to know. I'm not going to waste my mental and emotional energy being like, oh, what if? Well, if this bill comes, it'll probably come by that date, and then I can figure out. No, my time is better spent building up my coaching business and applying for real jobs. So number one, what are you consuming? And number two, is what you're consuming worthy of your time, worthy of your energy, worthy of your attention? And then also, like, what are you balancing things out with? Because there is some negative, quote unquote, news out there that we want to pay attention to right now. It's like, okay, I don't want to hear about crime in Chicago necessarily, but I'm going to look into it because it's my city and I care about what's going on. I care about how crime disproportionately hits different neighborhoods. So I'm personally choosing to read those stories, but I got to combat it with something else. And I won't even use the word combat because that makes it seem like go away, but rather, what is the good that I'm adding in after I read that? Doesn't mean I don't care. I've said this several times. Self-care doesn't mean don't care. And then there are going to be times where you just need to step back and take a break. So what are you consuming right now? This isn't going to make it any easier, though. Just because we consume positives doesn't mean we feel positive all the time. I started off by saying from Saturday to Tuesday, I was in a funk. And I'm like, I'm not used to being in funks for this long. Like 2 days tops. Once it went into Monday, I'm like, ooh, no, you're not welcome. Believe it or not, I like Mondays. I don't like Sundays because nobody's doing anything, and I'm here. I'm like, hello, is anybody doing anything? Some people are doing things, but I don't want to. Those aren't the things I want to do. Going to a COVID herd immunity party that's not the thing I want to do. Hannah, what doesn't surprise you?
That you love Mondays.
Oh yeah, right. It's the 7:15 mindset. You love Mondays. You're like, woo, people are back. I get my regular newsletter. I got my junk mail that I hate getting, but I know it means the world is alive. Yeah, Brandy, I hear you. There's a lot to make our spirits heavy right now. And I think that's something we're all feeling in one aspect or another. So recognize that parts of this are going to be hard. If you want to have a 7:15 no matter what mindset, that comes with both. It comes with the positives. I can do this no matter what it takes, no matter how hard it is. But it also comes with, oh my God, I have screen fatigue. I'm looking at this. Oof, like this is hard right now. Brandy, I'm going to ask you about that in a second. It's like, oh, I got screen fatigue. I am so sick of hitting refresh and seeing the same damn results of the ticket prices I can't afford. So having that 7:15 mindset, parts of it suck. And that's fine. If any of you listened to the podcast last week that I put out with Allison Grishow, she was saying, like, you're not going to like every single part of the journey, and that's fine. You can cut out parts that are like, no, I'm not putting myself through this anymore. But, like, you're not going to like everything. So what are you consuming? Is it in your control? Are you remembering that some parts are going to be hard? And are you giving yourself credit right now? You all of you here are doing hard things right now. And yes, everybody is going through some type of adversity, quote unquote. Maybe they're not. Maybe people are happy with shelter in place. But I would argue artists are getting hit exceptionally hard right now, mentally and emotionally, because whether you have income coming in or not, you're thinking about your industry. We love people. We love feelings. That's why we're all here. We like feelings. Let's talk about feelings, right? That's why you're all in the Facebook group. So are you giving yourself some credit right now? And are you willing to make it a priority to consume good things that give you all a 7:15 mindset? That's what I got this week. Brandy, what